Okay, guys, time to get woo woo on you now. I want to talk about spirituality. Specifically, I want to talk about sex in the realm of a spiritual practice. Now, luckily, I have a lot of practice in both. And so I think I can speak quite well to this. However, I want to make things very clear from the jump. My experience is mine. It does not mean that it is the same as yours, nor am I saying that it should be. What I encourage you all to do, if you're watching this, is develop your own conclusions for what's right for you, for where you are on your own spiritual path, and for where you are with your own relationship with sex and sexuality. I'm sharing mine as an illustration of my experience. Maybe you can relate to it, maybe you won't. Either way, that's okay. All right? So I wrote a blog on this probably over a year ago, well over a year ago, and it was such a good blog post that I'm deciding I'm just going to read it instead of starting from scratch. So what I'll do is I'm going to read this out loud to you like it's story time, and then if there are any other things that I'm going to want to add, I'm just going to jump in and add it for you. Okay. The blog title is called "Don't Let Your Love of Sex Prevent You from Pursuing a Spiritual Practice." What I'll do is I'll actually share the link later as well. Okay. Sometimes it seems like I exist in two contradictory communities. The first is the spiritual community that believes in a higher power and seeks to establish a relationship to that power beyond the dogma of religion. On the other hand is the gay community that tends to idolize something more tangible, the pure carnal pleasure of sex in all its fleshy, delicious glory. But for the most part, spiritual junkies don't give much credence to carnal pleasure, and the sex enthusiasts shun spirituality as a repressive delusion. I say they're both missing out. I consider myself to be a spiritual person who also happens to love the pure ecstasy of a sensuous fuck session. Some in the spiritual community will shun me as being too concerned with matters of the flesh. Others will say that spiritual beliefs are sexually inhibitive, but I've managed to straddle that line like a champ. So let's talk about sexuality for a moment. My upbringing as a good Catholic Italian boy caused me to feel ashamed and guilty for any sexual thought, never mind the raging love of dick and everything attached to it. It was hard enough to come out of the closet, let alone embrace that salacious part of myself. But embrace it I did, with both arms and both legs. Even in a notoriously promiscuous community, words like whore, slut, and pervert are thrown my way, and I used to wonder if on some level there was something wrong with me. Thankfully, I shook off those chains of self-doubt, and I owned that slut tag with pride. Do you know what helped me get there? My spiritual practice. As far as I'm concerned, it is a divine blessing that my spirit animates a complex physical body complete with all of the sensory receptors and mechanisms in place to produce a mind-blowing orgasm. Why not embrace and enjoy that while we got it? So now let's talk about spirituality. Let's start off by saying that spirituality is not the same as religion. The way I see it, religion is a dogmatic set of rules and beliefs that attempt to control and indoctrinate us in the name of a higher calling. On the other hand, spirituality is the belief in the existence of a higher power, and spiritual practice is the personal journey to connect to that power. I believe that power is benevolent at best and neutral at its worst. It has no judgment about our human actions, and judgment, after all, is a product of the ego, and the ego is always looking to hijack control of our inner voice from its natural connection to spirit. I may have lost some of you with this woo-woo stuff, but don't worry, we're getting back on track. For the rest of you who get it, I'm really curious to know what you think. Okay. So, bringing it all together. Spiritual practice is both my anchor and my guiding light that connects me to something beyond the physical world. That said, I am living in a physical body, experiencing a physical world, so while I'm here, I have no qualms about enjoying the blessings that it has to offer. the taste of a freshly baked apple pie, the smell of lilacs in the spring, and the feeling of a man's hard, sweaty body against mine. People shy away from spirituality for numerous reasons, including its hazy definition and its centuries-long entanglement in traditional religion. While I agree these are valid points to work through, don't let your love of sex prevent you from exploring this spiritual practice. In fact, if my journey is anything to go by, you will see that when you do, your relationship with sex and sexuality will be one of the greatest beneficiaries. So that concludes the blog that I wrote. I stand by that completely to this day. I wrote it almost 2 years ago, and every word of that still rings very true to me. And if there's anything I want to add, it's this. For those of you who currently are lost when I talk about anything about spirituality, I think that it is very important for not only sex, but for all areas of your life to really ask yourself what it is that you are connected to from a fundamental human point of view. And developing a spiritual practice is certainly not something that comes easily. They don't teach you that in school. And for most people that I've talked to, it usually stems from some kind of event or hardship in life that puts us on the path towards it. Now, if you're already on a personal development journey, chances are you've already rubbed elbows with spirituality in some shape or form. I consider myself to be very well versed in this topic, and if this is something that you'd like to work on or dive a little bit further into, please let me know. I'd be very happy to take your hand and guide you through this long, lovely path to higher consciousness. Thank you so much, and be well.